My name is John LeCaff. I'm being joined here by Director of Baseball Dan Simons. Welcome to our newest edition of the IMG Academy Virtual Tour. Hope this webinar is finding your family safe and well, and hopefully you get something out of this. The purpose of this is to give you guys an inside look of IMG Academy Baseball and the Academy in general, and maybe you're a family that's deciding whether this is a good fit for your child. So Coach Simons, thanks for joining us today. Coach, you're a big mentor of mine. We've had some history together. I played for you in college. If you can, Coach, give a brief introduction to your life in baseball and then your role as Director of IMG.
Yeah, Johnny, I appreciate you having me under these unique circumstances. I was drafted out of Davidson College back in 1987 by the Baltimore Orioles. I went on to have a 5-year professional career playing with the Orioles and Chicago Cubs. From there, I started my coaching career actually as the Major League bullpen catcher with the Cubs. Did that for 3 years and then went into player development with the Baltimore Orioles and the San Diego Padres. And in the year 2000, decided that I had enough of the bus trips and eating a lot of McDonald's. So I ended up going into the college game. So I spent 13 years at doing stops at Miami of Ohio, Xavier, and Indiana University. And that brought me in 2013. I was fortunate enough to come down here to IMG. And since that time, I've been the director of baseball, and it's been a tremendous experience for me.
It's great. It's great. And I know I've been here for going on 3 years now. Really enjoyed working with you. And again, families, I'm a student advisor. I work alongside Kit Carlson to help families in the recruiting process. Coach, as director of baseball, can you kind of go through your day-to-day role with the academy and what your responsibilities are?
Yeah, I oversee the daily delivery, and there's a lot of different aspects at the academy. Our main focus is the school program, the boarding school program, but we also run camps throughout the course of the year. We do professional training, team training. We host tournaments. So there's a lot of different things. We have a staff of 25 coaches, a couple of advisors. So we have a lot of support staff that assist me in the daily operation and the daily delivery of what goes on.
Right. No, for sure. Well, let's get right down to it. A lot of families are looking at IMG Academy as a possible opportunity for their kiddo and development, comes to mind as a daily, it's everything of what we do. So if you don't mind going right into that with the baseball development and start with the individual skill development.
Yeah, it really is our main focus. When a player arrives in the fall, we spend a considerable amount of time on really individual skill development. Usually we're going to be spending about 2 weeks just assessing and evaluating each player. And when I say that, evaluating his strengths and his weaknesses. We utilize several forms of technology to really get an accurate baseline. And it's nice because we're able to use that technology to kind of monitor progress as well through the kid's progression, right through his stay here at the academy. Drills, we do several drills, practice routines, and we do them by position. We break the kids out by position rather than in teams. So in the fall, it's very intense in terms of player development, and that also allows us where each player gets to work with a coach that specializes in that particular area.
Yeah, for sure. Well, if you can go into from the individual, then into the overall fundamentals, including like the team development.
Yeah, I think more and more what we're seeing, especially with travel ball, is kids are becoming a lot less fundamentally sound.
Yeah.
And I recognize that as a college coach, and even talking to a lot of the people that I used to work with in the college game, they're seeing the same thing. So we really do spend a lot of time teaching the game. We want our kids to become a lot more fundamentally sound, whether that's on the offensive side, the defensive side, so they're able to execute the little things that are going to play at a higher level. As the game, as you advance in the game of baseball, the speed of the game increases significantly. So the kids that are able to really be fundamentally sound are usually the ones that can kind of separate themselves from the kids that maybe are just advanced skill-wise.
Yeah. Yeah, let's go into that a little bit. The fall program compared to the spring. Can you go into that? What a fall day looks like compared to the spring?
Yeah, the fall, John, is really the focus during that time is individual skill development. So we're not in teams at that point. The breakout is by position. So the players are able to work with their specific coach defensively and offensively. The pitchers are all broken out with pitching coaches. So a lot of it, is really based on how do we get each player better? We've already identified their weaknesses, their strengths. We've come up with a plan for each player, and now it's about executing that plan. So we do spend a considerable amount of time on individual work. In the spring, it's a little different because once we get back after break, now we go more into teams, and now we're getting ready for our actual schedule that we're going to compete in the Florida High School Athletic Association.
Sure. Let's go into that a little bit, Coach, in terms of the breakdown of teams. A lot of families are curious. They're coming from programs that maybe have a freshman team, a JV team, and a varsity team. A little bit different at the academy. We start in middle school, and then we go all the way through the post-grad year. Can you explain to our folks how the teams are broken up, how many teams, and what that looks like?
Yeah, we have 10 teams at the academy. We have a post-grad team, JV and freshmen, that will actually train in the morning and take afternoon classes. And then we have 7 varsity teams that will have their classes in the morning and they'll train in the afternoon. The 7 varsity teams are kind of broken out where we have 2 national teams, 2 junior national teams that are comprised of sophomores and younger that we've identified as talented kids. And then again, 3 additional varsity teams. We really try to keep the rosters very manageable. So we don't want to get into situations where there's 22 to 23 guys on a roster, which ultimately will affect a kid's experience and his playing time. Yeah. So we try to keep those rosters between 15 and 17 players just to really, like I said, maximize development and overall experience.
That brings up a good point. So, the perception of IMG Academy Baseball is that everyone's a Division I athlete and there's pro prospects, walking around. How are those teams broken up? And I know the program does that around January based on the evaluation throughout the fall, but can you give our families an idea of how their kid might be evaluated and then put on a specific roster?
Yeah, and I think sometimes that perception is not always accurate, that, everybody has to be a star player to come in here. We're certainly looking for kids that have played the game and have some ability, but what's most important to us is that they're coachable and they have aptitude. So we are really able to not necessarily tier the teams, even though our top teams certainly are very highly competitive and play a national schedule, but we really try to balance out all the other teams. So again, there is, they're comparable in terms of the level of talent, that they can be very competitive playing a high school schedule in the state of Florida. And I think in a lot of ways, we just want to approach it, though we want to win, and winning is certainly part of their development. The emphasis is on playing time and development because we just see a bigger picture. We want these kids to play beyond the high school level. And how that's going to happen is for them to improve their skill set, to understand how to play the game and get a chance to play. To me, that's probably one of the most important things. Sure. That they have a chance to play and continue progressing.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. And I know I tell families that, how valuable it is to extend your career. And maybe that's middle school to high school to college, so on and so on and so forth. But, I think that's great. That's a big thing I take pride in sharing the vision of our families. And obviously, it starts with you. Well, let's go into a little bit about our historic year last year. Mm-hmm. Banner year for the program, one of the most celebrated years in IMG Academy Baseball. Can you go through some of the successes of last year's season?
Yeah, it was a special year, to say the least. Anytime you can capture a national championship and then turn out 6 draft picks We also had 5 alumni taken in the Major League Draft, which was something special. So 11 overall picks in that particular draft. So it was great. It was really good to see. But just as importantly as that is that, we were able to place between our postgrads and our seniors, every kid had an opportunity to go on and participate or play at the collegiate level. So I think to be able to do that and be able to really develop our kids in such a manner that they have those opportunities to continue their careers beyond the high school level is something special. But as a year, without a doubt, we'll never forget. It's going to be tough to repeat, but it's certainly something we're going to continue trying to do.
No, 100%. We've set the bar for sure. You talked, touched a little bit about the baseball staff, and I know you take a lot of pride in your staff, and you're talking about some tremendous accolades, former big league manager, high draft picks, former first rounder, Division I head coaches, Power 5 head coach. I mean, the list goes on and on. Can you talk about, the connection between the players and coaches and how important that is?
Yeah, it's a great point. I tell people all the time when I meet with families here or I see them out in the fields, we have tremendous facilities. We have state-of-the-art technology. The biggest asset, in my opinion, to our program is our coaching staff. Without a doubt, guys that have played and coached collegiately, played and coached professionally, just bring years of experience to our kids. It's one thing that they develop them as baseball players, but to your point, they have a genuine connection with these kids that they're developing them as young men. And I think that's the thing that really is glowing, that the relationships that they form, the passion that they have, because they're the most passionate group of coaches that I've ever worked with. And I think that's, in a lot of ways, listen, I know there's a lot of good amateur coaching staffs around the country, and I may be a little bit biased, but you're going to be hard-pressed to find a coaching staff as qualified as the one here at IMG.
Yeah, and I look back in my career growing up outside of Chicago, and, as a middle schooler and high school kid, those are my heroes, and I remember even playing for you at, Mine of Ohio. You instantly became a mentor because I was able to connect and relate to you. So I think that's a tremendous asset to be part of the academy and a kid. All right, we've talked about some of the baseball development and a little bit about our structure. Academics, do we care about academics? What are your thoughts on academics, Coach?
Yeah, listen, being from my background as well as other coaches, when you look at the coaches that we have on staff that are coming from colleges, we realize the importance of the academic component to this. Ideally, we want players that aspire to play at the highest level, right? But they also got to realize that the percentages in terms of, playing at the major league level, I'm not talking about professionally, but at the major league level, the percentages aren't in your favor. So we got to make sure that insurance policy is in place, and that comes in the form of their education and their academics. And we are constantly on them. We're constantly stressing it. The other part of this is it's just going to afford them a lot more opportunities. If their grades are good, if their scores are good, if they kind of make it a lifestyle. Because it's funny, the kids that usually do well academically and stay on top of things and manage their time the right way, usually it relates to what goes out on the baseball field as well. So we really try to emphasize that it is a lifestyle. There's a high level of accountability. And the expectations are not only high on the baseball field, the expectations are high in terms of what they're doing in the school and what they're doing socially as well. So that we are constantly, like I said, on them. And we're fortunate that we've got a lot of guys that understand the importance of that.
I love that, just the accountability. And I think we've got so many bases covered at the academy, whether it's with the baseball staff or academic staff or campus life, in the performance center, in the academic. I mean, we've really got a lot of resources for these kids. And I love the connection with our staff and the accountability that we share with them. And it might be a sixth grader, or it might be a post-grad kid. It doesn't change. Staying with academics, I tell families we've got an honors program. We've got an AP track. We've got kids going to some of the best academic institutions in the country, and even baseball, University of Chicago, Stanford. to just name a few. Mm-hmm. One kid that comes to mind is Kieran Collins. Kieran obviously was in our program last year, valedictorian for the whole academy, and now he's on his way to be a doctor at Johns Hopkins University. So can you talk a little bit about Kieran and kind of his experience at IMG?
Yeah, special young man, to say the least. It's funny because how he progressed and how he developed over the span of 3 or 4 years, he had been in the program for a number of years, was special. Tremendous attitude, very, very coachable, and needless to say, a highly intelligent kid. Yeah. Eventually he probably put himself in a position to be a Division I player and could have had several D1 opportunities, maybe at the mid-major level, but honestly chose the best academic fit for him, which Johns Hopkins is not a bad school. So, it was impressive to see a kid that, had his priorities in order, understood the importance of his education, is going to be playing, is going to be a valuable contributor at Johns Hopkins. And as I've said to a lot of people, they've got a very good one. But again, to us, it was the right fit for him and the right balance for him. And it really speaks to a lot of our kids of making sure that they find the right school. And the right school is you got to factor in the academic part of it as well.
No, that's great. And I appreciate that and that insight for our families. And Coach Simons, I kid around with families, and I don't kid, but you went to Davidson College. I went to Miami of Ohio, outside of Cincinnati, really good academic schools. And I don't know about you, but an academic school that I'm not getting into as just a regular student. I needed baseball and needed to play baseball at that level for me to get a degree from that school. So, obviously it hits home dearly for that.
Yeah, John, I don't think I was getting into Davidson either unless I could throw a baseball too. So, yeah, we were two perfect examples where baseball really assisted us in the process of just being really even admitted to the schools. And as it turned out, it was a blessing for me to be able to baseball as a vehicle to get into a quality school. And, the thing about it that kids have to realize is that you make of it what you want to make of it, in the school that you attend. And, Davidson wasn't really known as a baseball powerhouse at that time. But here it is, a kid from the Northeast going to a school, and I get a chance to play right away and then ultimately end up getting drafted because of that opportunity. So it is very, very important that we help the kids navigate through the process and understand those little things that are so important.
Yeah, let's stay on that subject, the coach's role in the recruiting process. And again, we talked about how diverse our staff is, how celebrated our staff is as collegiate and professional players, and then collegiate and professional coaches. Can you talk to our families a little bit about the role of our coaches in the recruiting process?
Yeah, I mean, the coaches are so important, in assisting the kids to find the right school. We talk about it all the time. They're certainly very well connected because of them coaching in the game or playing, and just the web is wide, including myself. But the thing I think is most important is the education of our student athletes and their parents and how to navigate through the process, the things that they need to be doing. Yeah. And also not wasting time, finding what ultimately is going to be the right academic and athletic fit. And I think the coaches do play a big role in identifying the levels, that a player can play at because they've played at those levels. Right. Then also, helping the student athlete, do the things that are necessary, right? Whether that's sending video, whether that's sending a bio information, statistical information, sending the schedule for the summer. Yeah. So all those little things. And then also having the player take ownership. Ultimately, it's his career. It's his decision. And they really can't rely on other people to do all the work. Though we're going to assist and we're going to give the roadmap, we want the players to take ownership and ultimately, get the school or get on the school that's the right fit for them.
Yeah, accountability again. And it's interesting. I've had conversations recently with really young kids, and I tell the families if they're not willing to take ownership in their careers, even though they might be 14, 15 years old, it's not the right fit, because I know we do place a lot of responsibility on the kids, but the amount of growth and development that they get from that on a personal level is unbelievable after their time here. Really quick, staying on, college placement. Very fortunate to have Benjamin Crabtree as our baseball college placement advisor. And Ben is on the academic side, but he's a baseball guy. Played at Ohio University in the Hall of Fame there, was drafted, even coached at IMG, and now his office is in the academic center. So if you can briefly touch on Ben's role and how important Ben is to helping kids find the right fit at the college level.
Yeah, great asset. And to your point, was a player, coached here at IMG, and we were able to transition him into that role because of his background and getting his master's and everything else. And he just really is instrumental in the process as far as getting the kids lined up, staying on top of them, to making sure they're getting in their applications, that they're certified through the clearinghouse. And he'll reach out to some coaches, but he'll also contact our coaches to let them know where the process is and how proactive each student athlete is in the process, right? So I think having somebody in that role to really monitor and push the kids along and help them through the process is invaluable, because ultimately, it is about staying on top of it and not letting things go. And listen, he starts with those kids at a very young age. We have freshmen and sophomores right now providing their lists of schools, their dream schools, the schools, all the way from Division I down to a Division III level. So I think that process really starts very early. And Ben is a great help in really working with the kids through that.
Yeah, and that's wonderful, and that's really good insight again for our families. And I just look at my experience, and you can touch base on your experience. I didn't have a place like IMG to constantly be feeding me the truth, and a lot of that was just, what am I supposed to be doing as a freshman in high school? What should I be sensitive to? What about a sophomore in high school and now a junior and a senior? And then again, finding that right fit, because academically I might be able to go to Stanford, but I can't play at Stanford, and then vice versa. So, I love Ben, and he's a good friend of mine, and someone that really cares, obviously, for our kids' development and where they end up. So let's dive into APD. So folks, APD stands for Athletic and Personal Development. Coach Simons talked about a little bit of that in the beginning with the overall baseball development. APD is going to be the strength and conditioning, the speed training, the vision, the mental conditioning, the nutrition, leadership and character development. It's really what puts a lot of the families over the top in terms of making the move. They just really feel like that's going to help their kids no matter what they do down the line. Coach Simons, if you can just kind of give me your thoughts on our APD program and why that's a game changer for our student athletes.
Yeah, John, these are the difference makers. I'll be honest with you, when I joined IMG, I was blown away what I saw that these players were getting. Things that, spending the number of years that I did in the college game and the professional game, and it just started getting big at both those levels. But when you're looking at mental and you're looking at leadership and nutrition and things that all kind of work together, disciplines that are so important in their development.
Yeah.
And, I think that was the part of it that, to see how comprehensive it could be. Yeah. And if a kid took full advantage of all the resources here, now all of a sudden, we have a complete player, because the things that now will be done on the baseball field, that, hey, if he's eating the right way, if he's conditioning, and what I mean by that, lifting in the proper manner. Yeah. We don't have a football strength and conditioning coach training them to play the offensive line. Yeah. He's training to become a shortstop or a center fielder, or the pitchers are doing their workout programs, things that are going to be applicable to helping them perform on the baseball field. So I think, when you look at the amount of information, and you're talking about leaders in the field, that are able to provide for our kids, it separates them in so many ways. It's kind of neat to hear some of our players that graduate and go on to the college level, even at major programs. And again, you're starting to see it more and more, at some of the bigger programs with these athletic and personal development type things. But to see how better prepared that they were to take on the challenges of a higher level.
Yeah, just awesome stuff. And I don't know about you, Coach, but I look back at my career and just the mental side and dealing with adversity, confidence, and being able to sustain that confidence. It would have extended my career, even injury management. And I know I made some decisions, felt like I was a good kid and trying to do the best I could. But, some of the lessons that I would have learned at IMG, would have just extended my career. And I know I would have been happier as well. So,
yeah, I think you're going to find that across the board. And like to your point, just the mental side of things, for kids to understand how to deal. The game is based on adversity, right? So to be able to know and have coaching and how to deal with failure and how to breathe and how to mental rehearse and how to visualize. And, these are fine-tuned things. These are things that really take you to another level. And to learn those at a very young age and put them to practice, you can get special results when you have that.
Yeah, I know we talk about all the time. I really do believe IMG Academy Baseball is the cross between a Division I baseball program and a professional organization. And I just think some of these resources that these kids are getting, only those in professional baseball are getting. And I feel like in some ways IMG Academy has carved a path even for those at the professional level. So, really tremendous. And you talked about preparation, which I love too. So, all these kids are going to be doing something next. And again, just with a conversation I had again with a young family today, some of these years right here are so important. They're so valuable that they're learning these good, strong lessons, these skills, learning how to deal with adversity, like you said. They go a long way. And I think some of these kids don't realize that it might be when they're 28 years of age and they own their own business or they're in an interview setting and they've got to be able to perform. And I think learning some of these lessons at IMG are going to prepare these kids long after they graduate. So
no doubt, yeah, you're spot on. Like I said, yeah, they're here and they're for their baseball development. That's why they're coming.
Yeah.
But to be honest with you, so many of these things that they're learning go so far beyond baseball that it's going to prepare them for life. And I can tell you, even just being able to live away and being able to sustain and do things the right way, there's quite an education there for them.
For sure. All right. Our postgraduate program, and you touched on it a little bit, when we went over our 10 teams. For families listening in, the postgraduate program, that was new for me. When I came to IMG, the postgrad program is considered a gap year between high school and the college level. At IMG Academy, you can take postgrad college academics and actually obtain up to 18 college credit hours, general ed courses, but 18 credit hours through the University of South Florida. And the University of South Florida professors come on campus. So tremendous opportunity. And probably the greatest thing is these kids can learn, advance their education academically, advance their baseball development, and not lose any years of college eligibility. So, Coach, obviously with the COVID-19 pandemic, the landscape with college eligibility has really changed, which affects recruiting as well. Can you go over the new developments in college eligibility and then, how that relates to our program?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, the whole landscape of what's happened, especially when the NCAA granted every kid an additional year of eligibility, especially with your seniors returning. The whole dynamic with the major league draft right now as well, most likely only going to 5 rounds. So there's a little bit of a logjam, with kids entering, even our kids that are already committed are being kind of persuaded or being encouraged maybe to seek other options just because of what their opportunity is going to be coming in as a freshman. So, yeah, I think the post-grad does provide a very viable option for kids that are entering college for this upcoming year. If the opportunity is not real stable or secure, if it looks like you'd be going in trying to make a team, or the possibility you just might have to sit the entire year, well, that's going to affect your development. So I think where the post-grad comes into play is that, to your point, you're able to gain college credits. You're able to participate, play, perform, develop, get bigger, stronger. Now, all of a sudden, you go into the class of 2021. So you're going to be that much better prepared going in now for your freshman year to whatever school ultimately you end up at. And the biggest part of that is you're not burning a year of eligibility. You're competing against some high-level competition. I mean, even with our national team, it plays a national schedule. They would not play as a strong a schedule as our post-grad, right? Because our post-grad are playing Division II JVs. They're playing high-end junior college, a state college of Florida. I mean, I could go right down the list, where now all of a sudden, if you're a position player, you're facing upper 80s, low 90s, on a daily basis. You're facing kids that are probably got 2 or 3 years on you, at a whether it be a junior college or even a 4-year school. So as far as the preparation and the level of competition that you would face, your preparation in a year, like I said, you're going to be a lot better prepared than you coming out of your senior year. And like I said, I think the biggest part of this is, the opportunity with some of these kids. It's very, very gray right now. And, that can be a little scary. You're going into a place that their baseball may be postponed for a year. And especially at this age, it's so important that you continue your development.
Yeah, no, that's great. Now, these post-grad kids, Coach, they receive the same benefits as our high school kids do in terms of college placement?
Exactly. Yeah, they still have the college planning and placement with Mr. Kukits, Joe Kukits. So we have an advisor there. There's the coaches that are with that program right now. Both have been former Division I coaches and are very connected from Division I all the way down. So they're very proactive in placing their players. They're afforded all the opportunities. There's great opportunities in the fall for them, whether it be exposure events. We travel. We went to Arizona last year to one of the bigger exposure events to get them in front of college coaches. We run our own scout day. So we not only do it for our academy, our high school kids, but we also do it for our post-grad kids, where they're able to participate in the morning, get in front of 35, 40 coaches. We have several third-party events. We have one event where we bring in 50 to 55 head coaches. So I think those opportunities to be seen, and then the other part of that is just being able to recommend players to certain schools and kind of really expand on our connections and just try to provide the best opportunity for our post-grad players.
Yeah, and that reminded me of something. You brought up exposure, and I know families out there, and my kiddo is close to being a teenager. If he wants to play college athletics, how do I get him exposure? How do I get him in front of the right people? And so, for families out there, we do have our college showcase in the fall. That's for high school kids and the post-grads. I know a lot of our kids get broken down into recruiting class, and we'll go down to Fort Myers and compete in some of the perfect game events. And I know that exposure schedule is just continuing to expand every year since I've been here. What I tell families, Coach, is just showing up every day in front of our staff with how connected we are with our network is the most exposure they're going to get at any other, in any other program or perfect game event, just simply for the fact that we can pick up a phone and pretty much call any coach in America.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. I mean, we don't have a magic wand, and we'll never claim to have a magic wand. Yeah. But I think what we can do is really spread in terms of reaching out to a lot of different schools. We're going to be very honest. We're going to be very honest. When I say honest with the kids, but also honest with the college coaches to give a full assessment. Because again, many of us have been there. We know what it takes maybe to play at the different levels. But I think we also have a lot of credibility in the game, a lot of credibility with other coaches, because when we do recommend, we're pretty close to being right on with it. So I think in that respect, it becomes a situation where, again, college coaches trust us. I think that's the only way I can put it. They can trust that, hey, if we call them on a certain player, it's going to be pretty close that they could play and help them win ball games at that particular level.
Well, and I remember just my past stop at the University of Cincinnati as a recruiting coordinator there. When I was recruiting an IMG Academy kid, number one, I was going to get the truth from you and your staff. But number two, I was getting a kid that, probably had lived on his own, for at least a year or two, had to figure some things out on his own, maybe made some mistakes and has already learned from them. But I knew when he got on campus that it was just going to be a different, more polished product than kids that had not gone to boarding school or a place like IMG.
I mean, that's the thing, John. We're going to be able to speak to the player, but we're also going to be able to speak to the makeup. And as well as I do as a college recruiter, as important as it is that you understand what the player brings in terms of his skill set and his ability on the field, what's the makeup? How coachable is he? What are the intangibles? How do those play out? And to be able to speak to that is so, as you know, it's so important as a college coach that you know exactly what you're getting in a player.
Right. Okay, we're getting close to winding up. Folks, hang with us. A couple more items. Obviously, the unfortunate events with COVID-19 and the pandemic. Coach, we started our season. We had the advantage of starting right when we came back from winter break. A lot of the folks listening in from up north, okay, they're probably just experiencing some good weather. For us, that's like Christmas Day, the first day when they come back in January. So fortunately, we were able to get some good development in second semester and even start our schedule and start our season. But now with the COVID-19 pandemic, we ended up around mid-March and the kids ended up going home and we're doing distance learning and distance coaching. So if you can kind of give our families a look into our current day-to-day in our new normal world with COVID-19.
Yeah, needless to say, Johnny, incredibly frustrating. We put so much time and effort in through the months and the fall months and then leading into the preseason. And fortunately, we were able to play some games. But to spend all that time and energy in terms of the player development, we just didn't think it was right that we were going to come to a dead stop. Yeah. And we felt like, hey, how do we go about, putting something together to keep our kids engaged, keep their level of development continuing? I get it. We weren't going to be on a baseball field. We weren't going to get a chance to work with them hands-on. But could there be something that we would be able to continue their development? And we were. We have a platform that we use called Coach Now. It's a communication platform that's tremendous. It's how we get the schedule out to the kids. It's how we communicate with the kids as teams. But it also can be used as a development tool. So the kids can videotape themselves. It has different applications on there that you can draw lines and you can have voiceovers and just do a lot of different things. You can send out all different types of content through this platform that gives them information. So that's exactly what we've done, and we've done it for the last 6 weeks. And at first, I was a little skeptical. I wasn't sure how it was going to go, but it's been special, to say the least. So our kids have been, engaged with sending us videos of them hitting off a tee, them doing wall ball, right? Them throwing the ball just like we did as kids on the top of the roof and catching fly balls off the roof, working on their throwing. Just doing a lot of things, and our coaches on a daily basis, Monday through Friday, are engaged with these kids. And I will be honest, I think some of these kids, again, they're not competing, I get it, but they haven't missed a beat in the sense of staying sharp. So are they more prepared for the summer? Are they more prepared going into the fall? There's no doubt about it, because they're not sitting on their couch. They're doing things actively, and that goes to APD as well. Our APD has been very involved with them. So I think it's going to pay dividends. I think that the coaches have actually taken to it pretty well. It's a whole new method of teaching, but it's something that I'm glad we've done.
Yeah, and in some ways, Coach, I feel like the preparation at IMG has allowed them to deal with some of this adversity. And at least that's my hope, that, this is a stumbling block, but it's not going to affect, their careers or their futures. And I know with some kids, it's going to affect them. And unfortunately, that's too bad. And my hope is the kids at IMG, we've trained them to deal with maybe something like this. And even though it's unexpected, here we are. And so.
Yeah, I don't think they realize it now, but I think some of this adversity and how they've worked through it at the end of the day is going to make them more complete. They're going to deal with things maybe in a little different manner. Again, the easy thing to do would be just to say, hey, listen, we're shutting it down. And that wasn't the case. They've responded to it. They've embraced it. And they've done a great job.
Yeah. Really quick, again, I'll go into or build on what you said, Coach, with the Coach Now app. And I know that rolled in, I think at the end of last summer with camp and now with our boarding school kids. And, the communication, just being able to have a platform where, like you said, APD, the director of baseball, the head of schools communicating potentially on there, their individual coach. I asked my 12-year-old who's boarding with me, how was your day? Oh, yeah, fine. Okay, how was practice? Yeah, good. And that's it. And I can't go to practice. There's no live stream where I can see him. And to have Coach Now where, maybe I can see a video of my kiddo hitting or working on pitching mechanics and almost in real time. And now when I talk to them later that night, I know exactly what their day was like. Sure. And I think that's just
it's funny because it lets the parents kind of behind the curtain, right? Yeah. The parents can really see firsthand, like, okay, what is going on, and they're seeing, they even see it during, like I said, with this platform, they're seeing it during when we're not dealing with COVID-19. Yeah. When we're out there playing and they can see the schedule, they can see what's going on, they can see, how a coach is working with a particular player from a hitting standpoint. We're able to post our fundamentals on there. We can do presentations to show, hey, how do you do cutoffs and relays? How do you do bunt defenses? All those types of things that they have access to so that they know kind of firsthand what is occurring.
Yeah, awesome. Okay, so we're wrapping up. Last thing, Coach, I'm a family and my kid loves baseball and, I think he's passionate about it and he's mature enough to live away from home. Why should I choose IMG Academy for my kid?
Well, hopefully after these last, 45 minutes that we've spent, they got a much better idea. I would say this, and I tell this to folks all the time. I look at it like if you think about your team back home and you have a roster of 17, 18 players, you might have 2 or 3 baseball players and everyone else kind of plays baseball, right? If you look at our rosters, if we have a roster and, again, usually going to be about 15 or 17, 13 or 15 are going to be baseball players. And what I mean by that, the kids are very dedicated, very passionate. You're going to be in an environment that just speaks to development. When you talk about the coaching staff, and I've said enough, and everybody understands, the value of the coaching. But to have that on a daily basis of guys that can really connect with you, really help you, understand your weaknesses, are willing to work with you to develop your strengths and your weaknesses, just to become the best player that you can possibly be. And then be able to do it in a challenging environment, because you're going to be pushed, you're going to be challenged. But ultimately, if you love the game and you truly want to take your game to the highest level, this could be the right fit for you.
Love it. Coach Simons, thank you so much. Baseball families, IMG Academy baseball prospects across the world, thanks for joining us. Please take a look at our website, imgacademy.com. Our webinar will be there, as well as academics, admissions, and other really good aspects to our virtual tour. Hope to see you soon, and take care and be safe.